Thank you very much for coming to this session. It's a very interesting topic. I've prepared a few surprises. I hope I don't surprise myself too. Today, we're going to talk about the vSphere mobile client. And let me first introduce myself. My name is Tihomir Matev. I'm from the Bulgarian office of VMware, staff software engineer in the vSphere user interfaces team. I've been here for 10 years now, actually. My anniversary was last month. And I'd like to share to you what we've done on this fling and how we did it and what you should expect. Of course, my major point here is to get a conversation going. So I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions and of course, gather any ideas that you have. Again, a big disclaimer before that. First of all, you should know that this is a fling. So as a fling, it's not productized. Many of the things that you'll be hearing here are ideas. Some of them are already realized. So yeah. What's this all about? As you know, traditionally, VMware has always had a desktop approach to vSphere. Not that you couldn't actually open up the user interfaces of the vSphere, let's say the vCenter server or the ESXi server on your mobile device, but typically you would not be expected to do so. And in most cases, it would be rather hard to do some workflows because of the small real estate that you have. But in the, today's world, especially with all the different aspects such as the pandemic and the modern way that we are actually approaching our workplace right now, more and more people are continuing to do their jobs in places such as on the public transport, or while they're doing something home, or why not even while they're walking their dog. So what we want to solve as a problem is to provide the same sort of confidence that your data center and your workloads are working while you're doing all this stuff that you didn't used to before, or you used to before, but just didn't have an option to in the first place. How do we want to get there? Of course, one of the most interesting stuff about mobile devices is that there's a lot of them. There's a lot of versions. There's a lot of different operating systems. There's smaller and bigger devices. Some are iPads, tablets, some are phablets, some are phones. And of course, there's different types of deployments that you would want to manage and troubleshoot. What we want to offer actually is more in the monitoring and troubleshooting space, because that's what we've gathered as the best place for a mobile enterprise application to be. And there's also, I also already mentioned the different operating systems. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of different things that we wanted to achieve. Pretty ambitious thing, but that's all part of what we think is going to be needed by today's administrator or security admin, any type of person who is monitoring or troubleshooting a virtualized workload. A very quick note here, you would see sometimes in the bottom these small clocks with the arrow, circular arrow. That's just to indicate that in this section, there's either development right now, so it's not complete, or is just planned in the future. The other sections are mostly done and already available, but it's a mix of both. So how do we get there? How do we solve all these problems? First of all, of course, we wanted to have native flows for a mobile device. That is, we want you to open up the device and we want you to have the same feeling like you're using any other app in your device. We want to have biometrics, so you have a very quick login, secure, We want to have or Face ID if the device also supports it. We want to have notifications, which is push notifications, because you're not always looking at your device. You could just put it in your pocket. It could be somewhere on the table. We want to know that we can reach out actively to this device and send information so that you could be sure about being always informed about the information you need from the data center, whether that's a notification for some alert, for a critical workload, a virtual machine that's going down, being migrated. That is something that we expect you to want to know and be able to receive on your device. Of course, all this with the caveat of being able to control that. Of course, it would be nice if you could somehow say to the application, I'm sorry, but this is my quiet hours. I'm off shift right now. So this is also considered in our plans. We want to have natural touch and swipe gestures, something that a typical web application usually doesn't have, but all applications that are native to the operating system, to the mobile operating system have. We want to have live data, because if you are using this for monitoring, obviously that's very important to you. You have to see the latest information, you have to know the latest data. And we have to have offline mode. If this is a mobile device, if you're traveling, if you're right now, your train is passing through a tunnel, or you just got on the lift or something like this, we want to have for you a way to still use the application, although the data would become old and you'd have to refresh it. You still could see some of the information while you had, it would be cached, and you could see the cached information in front of you. Another aspect of the same thing is having features that are actually tailored for your device. This is not a way to shrink the other applications in your phone. It's a different app. It is actually envisioned to work on a mobile device in the first place. So all the workflows, all the dashboards, all the actions that you could take, they make sense for a mobile device. I assume, and you can always correct me if I'm wrong, of course, that nobody would start a complex workflow on his mobile phone, of course, unless it's a matter of life or death. You usually would want to have something quick, some very, very fast one-click troubleshooting to a problem that you know you can fix quickly. Or if it's harder, you would want to have a way to delegate it to the team for later or something like this, but not start opening wizards on your mobile device, because it would be just ridiculous to try and fit all the data and do a very complex flow there. Of course, it's a compromise. In some places, we would have to have a bit of more complex flows, but usually what we want to do is a very, very specialized UI for your mobile device. That is a bit odd, is that we have a VM console. Actually, it was the most requested feature. When I started working on this project, I never envisioned in the first place that I would implement the VM console, because it didn't look to me very practical to have it on the phone, but I was amazed that a lot of people use it. Actually, I've seen people use it on other applications and also on ours. So this is one of the things, and it's also an area where we can improve greatly. We know that there are a lot of things we can fix there, and we are working on that. I mentioned about the quick actions. That will be actions that you would want to do quickly. And the bookmarks is another thing that would help you focus on only the items that are important in your data center. And if this is, again, somehow linked to the notification system, it could help you only get filtered notifications for the bookmark items that you're actually interested in. And of course, some of these integrations mentioned here, some of them are already worked on, some are in our backlog. All of them are actually suggested by our customers, and we are very happy that we have this open channel to our customers. Please recommend any type of flow that makes sense to you, and we'll all evaluate if this could be fitting in our idea and when, and we'll put it in the backlog. So what have we done actually? This is a very quick picture. Most of you should probably be aware of how the vSphere user interface looks like. It's on the right, that's the desktop application. On the left, there are two screenshots of a tablet and a phone version of the mobile application. As you can see, they're very similar. That was our aim from the start. We wanted to make sure that if you open up the mobile application, you'll see similar icons, similar colors, the same user experience, so that it would be really easy for you to continue where you left off. And actually, the best thing to do is show you a demo. I will just start it right now and narrate in the same time. This is our login page. You can see there that there's an option to also change the we have right now shown the last vCenter server we have connected to, but we can also change that. There's a list of vCenter servers that we've connected to already. So every time you connect, it's filled here, and you can actually go back and you can manage a lot of different vCenter servers here. You could also manage ESXi servers. We'll use fingerprint authentication to log in. We're taken to the dashboard where we see an overview of the entire data center with the resource usage, the hosts there, the VMs, their status, data stores, objects with most alerts. Again, very similar to the dashboard of the vSphere user interface. And on the bottom is something that I would really like you to focus on right now, because it's very important to us. This is the form for feedback. We welcome any feedback. Please send it to us. It is the way that we determine where we go next. So thank you for all the feedback you've already given. Don't hesitate to do it again. You can do it as many times as you want. It's the way that we progress further. Now I'm going to show you something very interesting that's very new. An internship that we started recently would extend the mobile application with the capabilities to manage your Tanzu clusters, the Kubernetes clusters. You can see here that we have already developed a view with all the namespaces in a server. You have a very similar, you'll see later on with the other objects that we opened, that the UI is very similar. In each object you have the details screen first, then you have the actions, the charts, and the events. Right now, it's all work in progress, so there's not much to show. We don't have actions right now, but we have integrated with the list, we've integrated with the events. In a few seconds, you'll see some events being shown and different statuses there. We also have charts there. These are the events that I mentioned. Of course, the color determines the the severity of the event. Some of them are errors, some are warnings, some are informational. And we also have the charts of how the current pods are doing. I think this is going to be shown right now. Oh, no, this is another example of the event so that you can see the difference in color and how you can see different types of messages sent to you. Oh, sorry, I skipped the charts, but I promise you there are such. What we want to show also is, let's go to this cluster. It's the cluster with most alerts and warnings. This is a typical view of how a details page looks like for any type of object. You have the resource usage, you have the related objects, their number in this case. Some of the areas will be expanded. For instance, right now you only see 7 data stores. You don't see the actual data stores, but we will do that later. And on the top, you can scroll down and you can open up this menu of the different alarms and events. And to some of these, you could actually execute actions, because these are triggered alarms. You can acknowledge them, you can reset them to green. We also plan to do additional actions here. We want to close the loop. We want to make sure that you have a way to react to something. We want to share this, like for instance, in Slack, so that you could share it with your team. If you can't react right now, they can see it there. And now I'm in the VMs page, specific Windows virtual machine. You can see here the different actions that you can take on this virtual machine. Some of them are enabled, some are disabled. Again, we are only focusing on actions that are really isolated, don't lead to a very complex flow that would normally be done on a desktop while you're working. We want to make these troubleshooting actions first. So if you have ideas about that, please don't hesitate to send them to us. Right now, there's no plans for us to have the absolutely same amount of functionality as the vCenter UI, that's the desktop. We want to focus mainly on monitoring. As you can see right now, we're looking at the networking and disk charts of this virtual machine. And also we would see the different events for this virtual machine. And you can also sort on the type of events. If you want to see only errors, you can see only errors. If you want to see warnings and errors and stuff like that. We'll also show you the console. It's a bit weird again to me. I guess a lot of you have used it before because I've seen other people use them. We have created an alternative keyboard to the native one of the operating systems, mainly for the purpose of adding the missing keys, such as control function and all the keys that you would find on a normal keyboard. You could still switch between them on the top right. So you could switch between the different types of keyboards, the native and the virtual one. I'm quickly showing you how the hosts look. This is again a host with resource usage with details about the host. We also have the data stores. Data stores are the most newly created type of object here. So there's not a lot of functionality there, but we plan to expand it. And yet another interesting feature is the ability to go to the VMware cloud. You could do that with this application as long as you have set up your cloud accordingly. It needs to be have the ability to be accessed from the public internet, at least for now. In this case, we have an organization. In this organization, we have one SDDC. And we can see that when we click on the SDDC, we'll be transferred to this server's actual data and what's inside of it, what resources there are. Pretty similar to what we already have because it's still a vCenter server, but that's your cloud deployment and not a private workload. I think that this is a very quick overview of the features. I've skipped a lot of things because it would take us much more time. I really hope to have at least 10 minutes, and I see that I'm almost exactly on time for your questions. But let's quickly skip through a few more slides. I wanted to make sure that I repeat this for the third time. Sorry about this, but we really like to hear your feedback. It's an engineer-driven project. So the only way for us to know what you need is you sending us any type of requests, data, or information on how you use the application. That is how we organize the backlog. That is how we evolve the app. And hopefully one day when it gets productized, this all be streamlined in a better way. But right now, this is the only way for us to get feedback. And a very quick overview of what we achieved. We already have version 2.2.2, very strangely, just before VMworld. We have 18,000 monthly unique users, 1,500 daily, all across the world. Usage is almost 50-50 between the two major operating systems. And I'm happy to say that I've been receiving a lot of happy messages from our clients. I hope this remains the same. We are doing what we can to make it an application that's usable for you and makes sense. So yeah, thank you. And I think we're open to questions right now. It's been a very very fast go through my slides just to have some minutes.
I see some questions on the chat.
Okay, should I start with them?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the first, we will change this. Rick Campbell mentioned that we have to change from on-premise to on-premises or on-site. It's a good thing. Thank you for the note. Gabriel asks, is this using the normal vSphere API or the new API? It's a combination of whatever is available to us. So yeah, the answer is both. Actually, we try to do whatever we can to get the smallest amount of data, because this is still a mobile app, and still provide it fast and structured enough. So we will have to switch between APIs probably, and we do right now. Peter asks, sorry, I did not catch it. Will it work over VPN to on-prem vCenter or just for cloud-based? Yes, it would work to on-prem and off-prem vCenter servers. There are many ways you can achieve this, so I won't cover all of them, but if you have your typical deployment where the vCenter server is behind a VPN and you would like to access it, there needs to be some way of the application tunneling to your VPN, whether that's a VPN software installed on the mobile phone or some sort of mobile device management software. We plan to integrate with Horizon, which would solve exactly this problem to a lot of our clients. But for now, this is only in the making. James asks almost the same question. Can this be used with VPN? Yes, it could be used with VPN. Again, Brandon asked the same question. And Jake has another question. Can this be used while away from the office, like on a bus headed home? Yes, that's our actual goal. But again, it really depends on your deployment, on how you manage it. If you could access the vCenter from the browser, that typically means that you could do this with the app. But in certain cases, if you have mobile device management software, you could configure this app to be one of the trusted apps that could access your VPN network. Another question from Tim. Would it be an option to use Workspace ONE's UAG, Unified Access Gateway, for access to the mobile app? That is our aim right now. It's one of the highest ranking items in the backlog. We don't have right now tight integration with Workspace ONE, but I have personally tried an experiment myself, adding this application as a trusted one, and it used to work. So it's a matter of configuration, at least to my understanding of how Workspace ONE works. Rado is asking, what are the supported vSphere versions? We try to support almost any version above 6.0, I think was the earliest one that I've tried. Since most of the APIs we use are not changed in the last couple of years, you should not be having problems with the older version. But again, we'd like to focus on the latest versions right now and provide, of course, the latest functionalities. Another question from Tony. Are you reusing common UI components from it? It's a very good question. Many of the things that we wanted to achieve in this, by creating this Flink in the first place, was actually being able to reuse the UX, to reuse some of the components, at least the ones that would be responsive enough to work both on the mobile application and the desktop application. Right now, to be honest with you, it's probably less than 30%, but we plan to make most of our components reusable and provide them internally so that you could see the same kind of user experience in other mobile apps that VMware creates if we reuse the same framework. Sorry to Ward, it may be the late time in Bulgaria, but I'm not sure what MFA is. So I can't really answer the question if we support it. The two-factor authentication, is that it? Okay, yes, thank you for clarifying there. Brandon and Ward actually clarified that they're talking about multi-factor authentication. Right now, no. It's something that we want to explore. I personally have started doing this, but I don't really have something to share right now. I know that it's very important for certain companies and organizations, so this is also very high in the backlog of the team. You have a couple of more questions, minutes for questions, 2 minutes actually, so don't be shy. I can also talk about other features that we're considering if you want to ask something specific. If not, we can end early. Oh, yet another question. Ashok is asking, log of mobile devices accessing the system. Now, that's a very good question, to be honest. I haven't thought about that. We could probably have a way to identify what type of device has logged into the vCenter server. The actual mobile device would not have this inside of it, but I think that we can probably get this information in the desktop version. I will write this down, and it's a very good question, so I'll look into it. Gabriel asks about plans to integrate with vRealize. Yes, this is actually my biggest hope if we manage to, because again, this is a development-led project, and we don't really have a lot of mandate, a lot of resources on this. But we know that a lot of our users have been asking about this. So it's very interesting for us to see. And by the way, when you say plans to integrate with the vRealize, send us an email how you imagine this. That's because otherwise we will have to imagine it ourselves. Or write a feedback how you would want to do it. Okay, guys, 20 seconds. Yeah, another comment from Peter. So the obvious next step is smartwatch vSphere client. You would be amazed to know that one of the earliest predecessors of this app actually had this integration already, but we, of course, only think about this in terms of when it could be useful. Thank you, everybody. We've hit the mark. It's been very interesting for me. I hope it was for you. And have a great VM world.